individually. Bismillah. May the Almighty accept our prayers. Ladies and gentlemen, a beautiful morning and a warm welcome to the grand launching of the starting 11 for Team Restore Confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, this important event is of high magnitude to Gambian sports, especially Gambian football. Ladies and gentlemen, the gentleman today ready to name this starting 11 is a gentleman highly respected by the society, especially the Gambian population in the sporting fraternity at large. Ladies and gentlemen, this man is a man of its respectable character. This man is no other man than Honorable Sadibou Kamaso. Can we please give him a round of applause? Ladies and gentlemen, we have seated to wait to make history because this launching is a launching of immense development to the Gambian sports. Before we move further, we would like to introduce once again the speakers for today's launching, and we will begin with the president of Walidan Football Club, Mr. Aliou Bey. Ladies and gentlemen, can we give him a round of applause for making this day a success? We move to the second person who is known generally in the Gambia, who is the former Minister of Youth and Sport, Honorable Mas Adzigai. Ladies and gentlemen, as the modern technology is high and fast, Honorable and retired Lieutenant Langchombon Tamba is not in our midst, but his voice will be played and the audience will have a listen to that. We will also have Mr. Abdullah Bass, known as Sax, who will also give a tip of what is taking place today. Then we will have the right man, Mr. Sadibou Kamaso, who will then launch the starting 11. An 11 that will be indomitable for the next 5 years, inshallah. An 11 that will be like the indomitable lions of Cameroon. And starting 11 that will dominate the Gambian sports forever. Ladies and gentlemen, we will also like to give the press who will make this day a success and who will also make so extend this great information that will peddle this platform today. And they will have a face-to-face with Mr. Sadibou Kamaso. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the program guide, and without wasting more time, we will call on Mr. Aliou Bey, the president of Walidan Football Club, to come and step on the podium. Mr. Aliou Bey, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. We welcome all of you, football stakeholders, football lovers, to this wonderful gathering. Briefly, to take our football and restore confidence as the slogan of this group, and to launch Sadibou Kamaso as the aspirant candidate for 2022. For the GFF presidency, and also to explain to you guys about the starting 11 that has been tabulated for Mr. Kamaso to take football where it belongs to and where it should go. In short, we apologize for starting late. As you already know, football is about time. In subsequent meetings and stuff, we will be on time. And we urge everyone to come on time. And once again, thank you very much. My involvement in this group, I believe, Gambian football is very important. We're at a stage that I personally believe is stagnant and it's not moving. With this group that I see, I think we could take football to another level. Just to go straight to the point, our campaign and our vision for football is not about politics, it's not about finger pointing, it's not about dirty politics. What we're about is to give vision for stakeholders, the fans, football lovers, what we could do and where we could take the echelon of football to the next level. We recently qualified the boys and did well. Congratulations to them on the AFCON. So now our vision is set on the World Cup and stuff. And we feel the way football is going, we need to be prepared. We need to invest a lot in our players, in our local teams. Because the bottom line is, this is what makes football and this is what makes the caliber of players we have to be better. As I said, other speakers will speak, but we just want to know, to everyone to know that what's happening in football, people know. We don't have time to be finger pointing. What we're going to do is just give the vision of what we want to do, and we hope football stakeholders can give us the trust and support that we can take football to the next level. If you see on this table and people sitting there, don't make a mistake and feel like it's only Sadibou or Uncle Axel or so. It's just a face, but there's bigger crowd as to all of there's bigger people and bigger personality behind this team, and we urge everyone that is in football, including the current executive of the association, of the Football Association, to come and join us and move football ahead. We are very much energized, we are very much happy, we are very much impressed between ourselves that we can move Gambian football to the next level. As I said, the starting 11, Sadibou will elaborate on that. But our main goal is going to be infrastructure, the players, the team, and player personality. Basically, football first, the football players first, the football team first. Then everything else comes, not even second, but third. So we want people to have that vision, we want people to have that understanding of that's what we're going to be a difference. It's not only the talking, and as you see, the manifestos that is providing is very detailed, and we are going to be ready to work on the manifesto and do it. We are going to be open to criticism, and us being leaders in the football in Gambia, we don't want to be in a situation that we just have to extract votes just to be in position. Most of us are not interested in positions. We are interested only in the development of football, because if football wins, we all win. So, I'll leave it at that. Once again, welcome. We urge everyone to matricize this. By the end of the day here, you'll agree that we have a good plan for football. We urge every one of you to go back, if you know fellow team owners, fellow football lovers, to sell our ideas. And in the end, we are all going to win. And just lastly, this team is not interested in what has happened. We all know what has happened in football. What we are interested is where we can take football. We're not going to waste any time on this and that. What we're going to put our energy and time is how to move the football. Everybody is going to be involved in these things, the allied associations, the teams, the veterans in football, the people that paved the way for us in these things are all going to be involved. At the end of the day, we are all fans of football, we are all football lovers. We involve ourselves in these things and time and resources just to make it happen. So for us, It's not a hobby or it's not anything. It's a passion. It's a business. We're going to treat it as a business, and the fans need results. So thank you very much. That was my piece. Hope at the end of the day, you'll all buy in our idea and we multiply it to other people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that wonderful piece. And that piece was a piece that will linger in the minds of the people present, digested and perhaps implemented in the long run. Ladies and gentlemen, without wasting more time, we will call the second speaker, the former Minister of Youth and Sports, Honorable Mas Axigai.
Thank you very much. Shall I say good morning because it's 10 minutes to 12. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start from the high table. Our incoming president, the rest of the table, I salute you all. In fact, I'm so happy to be here today because we've long been running after the issues of this kind all along. Today we come with our 11 points. You might be very surprised to see me here, a former minister. My passion in football has been traced for a long time because I've been in football and I've been into all sports in this country. I've done athletics in school, I ended up being a footballer, I ended up being an administrator, I ended up being a coach, ended up being a minister, where I sat in cabinet and discussed sports in general. I'm here not looking for any leadership role as far as I am concerned, but I am in sympathy with you because as young ones, you are not enjoying your football. And this is the time you should enjoy the fruits of football. Because when you play football, there wasn't money out of it. For us, it was all possible. Today, there is a lot of money in football, and you are not seeing yourself in football. I have been leading the post-authority football team and still leading the team. I am still in football, but I want to be at the back seat to convey you, the young ones, to see things go on. Football has not been really the same way administered as at now, with a lot of funds being accrued in the game. For instance, there is no infrastructure. Mr. They had said that, we are having problem in playing our football. Just recently, the class of Europeans were here talking about professional football. I was at the seminar in the Goal Project. But my question was, you cannot play professional where you don't have grounds to play. We cannot be professionalized. Because the first thing is to be structured. And there is no structure well done in administration, much more in its capacity as it is. For instance, there is no field to play now, only the Goal Project and somewhere else. In our national team, we are blessed with a crop from Europe and nobody in line, in town, to join them because we don't have the good team to produce immediately as far as the coach is concerned. So our players are all from Europe. So what is happening in town? You pick them little by little and send them in Europe, and inject themselves into this national team, and the clubs are not enjoying anything out of it. I will call, for instance, in going to Cameroon, I was expecting that all clubs would have shared this, at least selecting one or two of the clubs to go and witness what is happening. Because we created the footballers, they come from our players, teams, and etc. But now we find ourselves in a situation where we are not seeing game as it should be. The progress is lacking. Among the change should come in. And the 11 points here is talking about talking in all the will develop. And all coming together, we will summon this situation as soon as possible. And by August, you will see yourselves, the young who will be sitting at the CEO as the. Because I've been in this federation as a second vice president. I've gone to the highest position as the Minister of State. So I'm not looking for anything other than seeing football prosper in this country. Because I have passion in the game from childhood to now. And I will die with it. So anybody who's playing this game, you become my enemy. I wish you all the best. And please relate this to our friends. Let's come together and bring this game together. I think the President will give you the 11 points that we are looking for, and whoever reaches these points, digest them, will know that there will be progress, inshallah, if we are given the chance, or if you are given the chance to continue. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And we now move on to the next speaker. And the next speaker is Mr. Abdullah Abbas.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning to everyone. My name is Abdullah Abbas. I'm here to just emphasize on only two key points because I don't have much to say. The president of Walidan said it here. We all know what happened, so no need for us to, explain those things here. I'm here for the players, the football players, because I was there. We know how it feels, and we all know how things are going in Gambian football. So right now what we need is, we need change. We need change, we need a better league, we need better grounds. As I'm talking now, if you see the conditions of our grounds, you cannot play football on those grounds. And the Gambian players, especially home-based players, they deserve better. But the way things are going, it's not convincing. There is no future. And all what people say here to these home-based players, they always say, try and play for your future. But right now, in this Gambian football, there is no future. There is no future in this Gambian football right now. Personally, I would say I'm a victim of this system. I am a victim of this system because I was playing full-time football in the Gambian league. I spent like 12 years playing in the league. So there are things happening, nobody can tell me that this is what happened. I know, and I'm still in football. So I would say I am a victim of this system that is in place. So that's why I'm here today come and let us try and make this change, because it's very, very important. Like I always say, we are at war with ourselves, because we are the people who elect people who are not capable for this job, for them to run our football. So meaning, we are the problems of ourselves. So we need to come and rectify that. Try and put the correct people in place for them to run our football. Like I said before, I'm a victim. If you go to neighboring countries, you see people like me, they're still playing football. I retired like 5 years ago. If you go to other countries, you see people with my age still playing football, having kids playing football. But in Gambia, you cannot do that. You cannot do that in Gambia here. Reason being, it's because of the system that is in place. We all know one way or the other, we have people in our places like they are all victims of these problems. So that's why it is very important for us as Gambians to come in our numbers and try and make this change. It's very, very important. When we say Gambia, even in our national anthem, it says, for the Gambia, our homeland. So it's not an individual thing, or it is not owned by certain individuals. It is owned by we Gambians. So it is our responsibility to come out as Gambians and make this change. We need correct people to run our football. When I say correct people, I mean we need people who have the know-how, the technical know-how to run our football. Because the way things are going right now, if we don't put our house in order, the likes of Lakabaro and others in the national assembly, they did all because they have the platform and the structures on the ground. That's why they have those beautiful performances that they did. But right now, there is no grassroots football, so where are we going to get the likes of Lakabaro, Jamano and others? Where are we going to get the likes of them again? Because there is no grassroots football right now. So I'm urging every Gambian to come out and support this initiative so that we can make this change and help Mr. Kamaso to lead our football. Like I said again, like I said before, I am a victim of what is of this system. Reason being, I'm no more playing football and I'm still young. The way it was very, very little. I don't even want to mention it here. And we want people like Kamaso, people who have ideas, people who can innovate, to help us bring their ideas and we build Gambian football. Because we want our footballers to be in Gambia, buying cars of their own, buying lands of their own. We want our transfer teams to be like other countries, like $200,000 is for a transfer fee. At least if we have that, players will be able to buy lands of their own, cars of their own. They will contribute to the development of football in Gambia. But the way things are going, they cannot even contribute to their homes. Even to buy cash power for your family, you cannot do it when you play in the Gambian league. It's very frustrating. Players have been paid, they are paying players less than $1,000 this year. What can $1,000 do for you? It is all because of the system that is in place. We want people who will come and innovate, bring ideas, help us to develop this league, help us to develop this Gambian football. So I would say, if we all join hands and help Mr. Kamaso, he will be the right person to do this job. Because I have listened to him, I have read the first 11, I've seen it. It's very, very impressive and it is very, 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 very good. If we use that, then we'll be there. I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdullah Abbas, for that wonderful piece. But I will only have in mind that it is not only that the starting 11 will be meaningful to the Gambian people, but perhaps even the substitution bench will be of one that Mr. Kamaso will have in mind. So we have a very good 11, and be rest assured, the substitutions are the best. Ladies and gentlemen, we now call on Mr. Abdul Karim C to also give us his piece.
Sorry.
Thank you very much, MC. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, members of the high table, the president of the Banjul Football Association, Modusau, former minister of youth and sports, Uncle Mas Aksigai, my brother Aliu, the president of the Walidan Football Association clubs, and a colleague, Sadibou Kamaso, the aspiring president for Gambia Football Federation. Once again, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think I have just few issues to announce here. I felt I should not have talked, but just to say few. I came in 2014 as the president of the West Coast Region Football Association and found Modusau as the president of the Banjul Football Association. Again, I worked with Sadibou, and after 3 years, I worked with Sadibou at the Football Federation as executive members. Ladies and gentlemen, these are 2 gentlemen that I found with qualities of leaders. If you are looking for leaders, look for people who are honest, look for people who are transparent, look for people who are productive. That is what I found in So, and in more so, Sadibou Kamaso. There are a lot of things that we have done together to arrive to this day, but today is not the talking time. We are just here to launch. And I want to entrust all of you, the football stakeholders, that let us support Mr. Sadibou Kamaso. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdul Karim C. Before we move further, we will want to assure the stakeholders present, and the piece will go to Team Restore Conference, and you can also follow the Facebook page on Sadibou Kamaso. Mr. Nani, if you're ready, please help us have the audio of retired lieutenant.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Fellow colleagues and compatriots, I am General Retired Langtamong Tamba, third Vice President of the Gambian Football Federation. I am here to talk to you, my colleagues, football lovers, and friends. We are here today to hold a discussion on Gambian football. Barely 4 years ago, I was among those who were elected to administer the helm of football in this country, becoming the third Vice President of the Gambia Football Federation. Now that I have served my mandate of 4 years, by August this year, we'll be going into elections of Gambian football. I am here seated to let Gambians know that I had had enough in my plate from the day I came into the executive of Gambian football. And in life, there is time for everything. And today I am happy to say that come August this year, I will not contest for the position, for an executive position in the Gambian Football Federation. Thereby, having served the last 4 years in the Gambian Football Executive, I have made up my mind to throw my weight to a very reliable, trustworthy, hard-working executive officer in the name of Mr. Sadibou Kamaso. I want to throw my weight and give support to Sadibou because I am highly convinced, having worked with him over the past years, he is somebody who can be trusted to carry the helm of affairs of Gambian football to a higher height. In life, it is always good to try from both angles. He has served as an executive member, and having worked with him, I am convinced that once given the opportunity to lead the affairs of football in this country, he is going to take our football to a more higher height, and he'll bring a lot of surprises to us. Thereby, I want to assure you all that I have decided to give support to Mr. Sadibou Kamaso's bid for presidency of the Gambia Football Federation. If you work with somebody for some period of time, you get to learn who the person is, just like the person also get to learn about you yourself. So having worked with Sadibou, I am highly convinced that he is more than qualified to handle the affairs of Gambian football. And I'm also equally convinced that he'll bring the changes that we all desire. And that is to bring very good changes, the changes that will see Gambian football make a big turn for the interests of those who are playing the game, and of course those who have shown interest in the game. Having said that, I hereby make this announcement that I strongly give my support to Mr. Sadibou Kamaso to be elected President of the Gambia Football Federation. Once this is done, we'll see a lot of changes. Having served in the Federation, I know the kind of mind he has, the kind of ideas he has in improving this game that we all love. So therefore, I'm calling on all of you that let us throw our weight onto Sadibou and give him the support that he deserves, so that come August election, he'll become victorious. I can tell you, and you can learn a lot from me, because I work with all the executives, and I stand a chance to have known each and every one of them. And I can candidly tell you what each of them stands and represents. That is why I did not hesitate to throw my weight to support Sadibou. Sadibou is somebody whom I had witnessed. Once I headed a delegation to Algeria when our team went to play there. Sadibou paid his own ticket, air ticket, to go to Algeria to watch that game that we played with Algerian national team, and we drew 1-1. I was the head of the delegation in that trip. When I saw Sadibou, I was shocked, not only shocked but surprised, for the simple reason that he paid his own money to buy a ticket to fly to Algeria, and all the expenses that he did, any amount. So therefore, highly convinced through what I saw and through what I saw him do, that once he's given the opportunity to head Gambian football, he will carry the heights that we will all be proud of, and that we will all be happy to see. I would have been here with you today, but because of unforeseen circumstances, I will not be with you. In the same way, I decided to send this video so that you can hear it from me myself, that I am 100% in support of Sadibou's bid to head this Gambian football. Because seeing is believing, and having worked with Sadibou, and having seen the strides that he made in promoting this game of football, I am more than convinced that Sadibou should be given an opportunity to lead this football, so that he'll head us to where we want to reach. So on that note, I want to thank you all, and please accept my apology once again for not being with you in this hall. But spiritually, I am with you. So I wish you all the best, and work as a team. Once you work as a team, there's nothing you cannot achieve. So good luck to Sadibou, good luck to the team, and may Allah be on your side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. As he said, he is not with us, but spiritually, he is in our midst. Through my words is what he last said, and he, the retired lieutenant, Lang Tombon Tamba, it was Kamaso's candidate. He said, Sadibou. Ladies and gentlemen, before moving forward to some... Ladies and gentlemen, as the world said, whatever agana sindongli, luwai don jai teirek mulam. Sadibou fungwala wahe kontara dudes. Ladies and gentlemen, I now hand over to the waiting president of the Gambia Football Federation, His Excellency, President Sadibou Kamaso.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished stakeholders. Your Excellency, former Minister of Youth and Sports and former Ambassador, Honorable Mas Aksigai, our uncle, advisor, President Modusau, President Banjul Regional Football Association, Mr. Abdul Karim C. I still call him President because once a president, always a president. President of Walidan Football Club, Mr. Aliou Bey, my confidant, my rock. We will argue, but he's always by me. Usually I don't like him talking before me because he makes it difficult for me to talk. Because a lot of people feel, oh, Aliou can't, but you do not want to try him. So I wish he didn't speak before I had to. If you look at the table here today, it seems I am the odd man out. Because everyone on this table here has served in the capacity of president except myself. I think them sandwiching me today is a sign that they want me to get to the position that they are. Distinguished stakeholders, language would fail me and words are inadequate for me to express my gratitude to all of you for gracing this occasion today. I cannot thank you enough for believing and wanting to come and listen to stakeholders. To the gentlemen on the high table today, these are the people I talk to every day, more than 5 times a day, because we get to strategize. To the man on my left, Mr. Abdul Karim C. I do not even know where to start because he is a man of impeccable ethos and somebody who has great vision, somebody who has thought of great things and thought there's time we make change and we needed to look for somebody who can run the affairs. We've been on this for quite some time because we've experienced it and seen what has happened. Mr. Modusau is somebody who does not take anything but the best, and is somebody who believes that we need to move football forward, not just by coming and making promises, but living by example and making sure the expectations are met. For somebody who has individually sponsored Banjul Nawetan for 2 decades, I don't think anybody would question his love for the sport. Thank you, Mr. So. For Mr. Bey, he came into football administration after myself, but he's been with Walidan since he was a kid. We grew up together. He knows Walidan inside out. I don't think anybody else, apart from the late Alaji Obi's children, would know Walidan much more than him. And by virtue of that, he was entrusted to run the affairs of the team. And since he came in, I think he has manifested what he has and what he intends to do for football and where he wants it to be. Sometimes he would call me at night and say, boy, we need to work on standards, we need to do this. Even the other day our flyers came out, he was on the phone telling me, you can't send a flyer like that without branding it. So he's a man who does not accept things that are below par. For Honorable Aksi, former ambassador, he's lived this game throughout his life. From a player, to a coach, to a Minister of Youth and Sports, and even a former executive member as Vice President of the Gambia Football Federation. You cannot question his integrity. You cannot question his love for the sport. Honorable, thank you for coming and thank you for taking time to come here. distinguished stakeholders, let us face it. We are at a critical moment where our football has faced substantial erosion of confidence. Every football stakeholder, and even those who do not follow football now, are yearning for a leadership in the Gambia Football Federation who would responsibly manage the affairs of our football with competency, accountability, commitment, unrelenting will to succeed, and above all, transparency. My team and I did not just conceive the idea to take the mantle of leadership at the Gambian Football Federation out of the urge to become leaders. No. Some of us are already in the executive, and we know what is on the ground and what the stakeholders are yearning for. Yes, people will question why is Sadibou contesting for this whilst he's still serving as an executive member of the Gambian Football Federation. I'm sure this is a question the journalists would want to ask, but before I delve into the starting 11, this is something pertinent that I need to throw out there. I'm an executive member, yes, but every individual there has a portfolio and there are limitations as to what you have powers to change and what to move. Democracy is the minds of the majority, and usually one would be on record for expressing your views, ideas, and suggestions as to how we need to administer football. But then it is up to the leader, or should I say the leadership, to decide whether to take it on board or otherwise. I have been in this game for quite some time. I've learned in it, I've studied it, and I'm the type of individual that does not stop, because anybody who knows me knows I try to push for better. I do not accept anything that is below standards. Today, we're here to present the starting 11, as some would call it, a manifesto. We decided not to call it a manifesto. As I said, we want to think outside the box. The idea of the 11 actually came from the man on my right, Aliou Bey. He said to me, we're putting a 10-point plan there, because a football team has 11 players, so think of something. And that was when we started working on the document called the Starting 11. But the idea to take over the mantle of leadership emanated from some members who are part of the football fraternity who felt there was a need for change and made the approach. When the approach was made, I made it clear. I needed time to think through it. I needed time to consult. And I needed time to speak to family and loved ones who are not involved in football to give me their opinions on it. And I can tell you that most of the people that I approached, obviously you can't get everybody supporting you, especially in the Gambia. Some people are of the opinion, oh no, you do not want to try that. Certain things might happen to you, but we want to bet them on that we are going to change Gambian football. And that was why most of the people I spoke to said, let us do it, let's go in for it. This is not about you or us. This is about Gambian football. We've been spending our time, our resources, and we need to stimulate interest for an increased stakeholder participation in order to bring football and its benefits to the doorstep of every Gambian. The Restore Confidence team is a true pro-people group of football administrators, and our agenda is to ensure the safety and prosperity of Gambian football. Our players have gone through very trying times. Hats off to them for being able to endure most of the issues that are around now, especially the lack of playing surfaces to find where they're going to play their next game. It is evident that the two most important things in football are a ball and a pitch. The rest of it comes after, because once you have a ball and a pitch, the players will come, the coaches and the others. But if you do not have a pitch, you do not have balls, I wonder what it is that we are going to run. It is a fact that the Gambia Football Federation has endured a considerable erosion of confidence from the football family, stakeholders, and the general public in the governance of the most watched sport in the Gambia, if not in the world. And this has happened over the past 4 years, according to the reaction of the stakeholders. My team and I believe that this is the best opportune moment for us to make a change, and we have identified 4 key areas that require urgent attention. One of them is the remodeling and the rebranding of the Gambian Football Federation institution itself. We need to remodel and rebrand it, because oftentimes you go to certain places, you tell them you are from the Gambian Football Federation, they look at you again. And this means there's a need for systemic change. We are not after any individual. Substantial improvement in the GFF holder relationship. We believe you cannot run the affairs of football where stakeholders' participation is key when the relationship between the two has suffered considerable erosion of confidence. We need to restore that confidence, hence the Restore Confidence mantra. The other point is the judicious generation and management of resources. That is the concern of every stakeholder. We believe with these, we would ensure Gambian football gets to the level it is supposed to. We have a lot of talent. Why are we left behind? Oftentimes you travel, you see your compatriots are doing certain things, and you know that these things can be done. But my team and I believe that if we employ a holistic approach rather than confining all the ideas within a few set of people, our football would go further. In order to achieve our aims, the Restore Confidence team came up with an action plan that is centered on an 11-point plan as set out in this starting 11. And as I said, cognizance of the fact that 11 players are fielded in every team. So we thought it is best to fill in a very strong starting 11 to help us get the desired results. We shall be solely committed to ensuring that promises that are made are kept, because every promise is a debt. The primary stakeholders, which include the first and second division clubs, regional football associations, the RFAs as we call them, allied associations, will not only be factored in the starting 11, but we will have their views, their inputs, so that the reserves that we are going to bring in would be the game changer for us to get the 3 points. We intend to restore confidence in the governance of our football for the good of our game and our country. And my vision is to uplift and preserve a preeminent standard of football in the Gambia and place the Gambia football governing body on a pedestal for technical, structural, and financial self-sustenance. And with this, the mission we have is to stimulate interest for an increased stakeholder participation and contribution so that football and its benefits will be brought to the doorstep of every Gambian. I remember somebody very close to me, starting 11 is going to be members of your executive. I just smiled and laughed. I said, well, even football has science now. You need to think outside the box. It's not the same thing that was being done. We need to improve and make a change. That is why the starting 11 is being presented to you today. And on the starting 11, what we are feeling in the goal between the two goal sticks is improved and accountable governance. Leadership is an entrustment that I believe must be discharged with humility, humanity, competence, transparency, and above all, accountability. You are supposed to be accountable to the people. People should be able to ask questions. People should be able to criticize. People should be able to give their suggestions and ideas for you to look at them and see a way to develop that. And I believe the Restore Confidence is comprised of people who are willing to take that, and that is the reason why we felt improved and accountable governance should be the fourth player that we are going to fill in the starting 11. And we said administration and governance are the bedrock of the beautiful game of football. There can only be meaningful development of the game with the existence of a solid and virtuous governance structure that will ensure proper management of resources and personnel to achieve the desired objectives. The team Restore Confidence will see to it that positions are manned by skilled and qualified personnel. We shall also work on improving the governance structure, policies, regulations, and statutes to make them apply to all without disadvantaging any stakeholder. The GFF must ensure it manifests a clear and unrelenting will to remodel itself into a properly governed institution to attract the trust and confidence of the football family, our partners, prospective sponsors, the government, and the general public. Our main areas of focus on the governance shall be accountability and more transparency, compliance in terms of legal and administrative, improve and fiduciary relationships with government, WAFU, CAF, FIFA, and the general public, because those are the people who spend their monies to go and watch games in return for nothing. The second point of the starting 11 is sustainable infrastructural development, where we are talking about the required standard of a playing pitch. The lack of standard playing pitches has not only hampered our football development, but also shortened, if not ruined, the careers of a good number of our players, or should I say our valuable sportsmen. There's an added need to ensure our football pitches are up to standard, and this cannot be done using silo approaches. My team and I will adopt a more holistic approach. Municipalities, area councils, governors, and the Gambia government to develop the playing grounds for the protection of our football players, as well as produce better players. Our regional football associations and allied associations are either not housed in offices or are housed in offices that you would feel embarrassed if you have guests to invite them to. That said, the Gambia Football Federation institution is well furnished. They all have the required structure to perform their duty. They have the required equipment to perform their duty. We believe the regional football associations who are responsible for the third divisions, because you have a football pyramid. You have the first division, you have the second division, and you have the third division that is under the regional football associations. If these football associations struggle to get their subventions, struggle to get the required support, I wonder how do you expect them to deliver to expectations? If we were not getting the required funding from FIFA, we wouldn't be able to develop. Oftentimes people will complain why a local base player is not being taken. The third division clubs have their leagues being run by the regional football associations, but they do not even have the funds to run these leagues. So I wonder how we expect them to have players that will graduate to come and play in the second division clubs. In order to better this, we believe that during our term of office, we shall put more emphasis on transparency on all projects being undertaken, with the costs involved, the duration, the consultants, as well as the contractors carrying out those contracts. We want to make it as open and transparent as possible. We also want to ensure that there is a construction of standard pitches by qualified consultants and contractors to ensure that the player's safety and longevity intact, and the pitches being one of the most important aspects will be given priority, because I believe if you were to build a park or a stadium, the primary work begins on the pitch where the game is being played. One pitch that meets the standard requirement for playing a league match for a start. Eventually we will go to the biggest, has to have a league match. Thereafter, every region shall benefit from a standard stadium fit enough to host international match and or a technical training center. The RFA offices will be properly furnished, funded, equipped with the required materials to improve their service delivery so that they can serve the stakeholders who are under them. The allied associations, like the players, the coaches, the female football, referees, shall also be provided with the required materials and offices to facilitate their development plans and activities. The third point of the 11th analyzation. Gambian football has registered slow progress in terms of player development and transfers to the international stage, which could have had significant benefit to our players, the clubs, and the country at large. One of the contributing factors to this impeding progress is the fact that the Gambian League has been an amateur since the inception of the Gambia Football Federation in 1952. You cannot be doing the same thing all the time and expect different results. If you're playing amateur football from 1952 to 2022, you do not expect to be selling players at the same price or to be transferring players the same price that other countries are doing. Look at our neighbors. Up until today, we're struggling to professionalize our league. The majority of countries on the continent currently have professional leagues, which have not only allowed their players to be highly exposed to the international market, but also make certain that their players have the required remuneration so that they can at least save up for life after football. How many players do we have here that have played and they have their careers, say this is professionalized the league, that, or we will promise that we will increase the league prize money to 1.5 million dollars, up 750 in third position, 500. You cannot exceed in order for them to be able to travel. Having headed a team that had played in the CAF Interclub Championships, I know what it entails, and I believe if we start with 1.5 million dollars for the league winners, that will help them secure the required air tickets whilst they work on the rest. We will also increase the FF Cup prize monies to $1 million because the winners of the FF Cup also play in the CAF Interclub Championships. Giving them $1 million in cash would just boost everything that they have started working on to ensure their participation in the CAF Interclub Championship is a success. Otherwise, sure, there is a professional league in place. This is undergoing a revised licensing process. Then we will push this and make sure it happens within the shortest possible time. This will lead to clubs meeting criteria of entering into professional contracts with players so that both the clubs, in collaboration with government or in consultation with government, we will ensure there is a minimum wage that will be paid to players. No club will be forced to become a professional club, but all those clubs that meet the criteria will be allowed to become a professional league so that standards are set and they will all ensure the minimum wages so that the players have enough money that they can count on as a monthly salary. And in so doing, we'll engage the Gambia government for the right policies to create the enabling environment for the professionalization of our league at the earliest possible point. We will also assist clubs in income generation and marketing. It will not only be celebrated and archived, but also used as an encouragement, a stepping stone, and for young footballers to remain resolute and committed to development plan to have them become country's name high. That said, we must not also forget that the Gambia has faced several sanctions, fines, and disqualifications because of age cheating issues. My team shall ensure that the beautiful game is run without any of these endemic malpractice starting now. This is in the best interest of the country, the game, and our footballers themselves. We will regularize our youth football system by devising better mechanisms to deal with any misconduct of such nature. A summer youth and sports tournament shall be organized every year to attract scouts both within and outside the jurisdiction. And through this, we shall establish a digital database for the registration of all young players from an early age. When we say this, it's not people bringing us birth certificates that they've made 2-3 days ago. If we're a young player that is registered in every academy, will be asked to bring your infant welfare card. If you do not have that, we will ensure that we put in mechanisms that the age input or this is placed in the digital system will never change. This we are going to do from an early age, from the under 9s, under 11s, going upwards. At this juncture, we want to salute the school football for the bold initiative they have taken over the past week in trying to help us achieve this dream, even though this was not discussed with them, but it looks like like-minded people think alike. And we want to salute the president of the school football for taking the bold initiative of trying to get rid of those cheatings in the sport. Thank you, President. We're going to establish a better structured youth football program that will align with international standards as being promoted by both CAF and FIFA. We have already seen the Pan-African school football being played. We want to play in the same league and make sure our kids are exposed at that level. We will ensure that young players are encouraged, or should I say young athletes are encouraged to also take up other disciplines like refereeing, fitness conditioning, as professions. Not all of us are good enough. I remember when I was much younger playing, I was not the best. I think I was the worst player in my team. But if I don't play, my team does not play. I think I was the loudest, maybe the one that would cause a lot of trouble. And if somebody, women's football development and advancement is the 5th. With this, we will encourage and advocate for more women to sit on the GFF board and take part in policy-making decisions. And I can tell you that although my running mates will not be announced today because it's a holistic approach, but you would see a female vice president for the first time in the history of Gambian football. We all know that women's football is being left behind, and we do not want these things to just be on our lips. So we want to encourage more women on the board, so we are taking serious at the international level. We will increase the number of female coaches and administrators through capacity building and development programs. We will provide better opportunities in terms of training and equipment to the women's team. We will also advocate. This is something I know some people will be thinking, where is this coming from? But women's football, be ready to be in the forefront. Because this is something that the General Assembly will have to approve, but we will advocate for women football teams to be direct affiliates to the Gambian Football Federation. You deserve to have equal votes as the men. Although we know the levels are not the same, but it's a gradual process and we intend to start now. But this again is in the hands of the stakeholders, which we will throw to them, inshallah, if we get into office. And it's up to the stakeholders to vote this in, so that the women clubs can be direct affiliates. So that when they're playing with their compatriots, there is no issue of them looking at themselves as inferior to other clubs. If we want our female football clubs to deliver, we have to bring them to the level we are. We will retool our football development department to equally develop women's football, as I said, in the Gambia, and better the current women's football league. Income generation, resource mobilization and management. Because this is something that everybody has an interest in. A proper institutional accountability framework to guarantee stringent control over all financial transactions by the Federation is the top of my team's agenda. This will ensure that all funds received and or generated by the Federation, as well as those spent, are done judiciously, accountably, based on budgets, and in line with best financial practices. Resource mobilization mechanisms to ensure the GFF does not continue to completely rely on FIFA for monetary inflows for its programs and financial activities will be improved, and we shall ensure that the Ghana Football Hotel, I'm sure you are all aware that there's a football hotel that is owned by the GFF. The Ghana Football Hotel, which since it began operations, has contributed little towards the GFF finances. But what we intend to do, we will revitalize and restore its original agenda of contributing of themselves. Aspect of that is manned by the clubs. We all know how much is being made from league money, which we can eventually share amongst the clubs to help them. We will help clubs in entering contracts with replica jersey producers or institutions that produce jerseys, so that clubs are in a position to start selling replica jerseys, so that they can eventually be financially self-sustained. Training of clubs on accessing the training and solidarity compensation for their respective players. Most of the clubs here today are due for training or solidarity compensation, but because for the lack of understanding of how these things work, they do not benefit from that. Because we all know, if any player goes through your club from the age of 12 to 21, you do some sort of compensation. But if we do not build the capacity of our players, of our clubs, the administrators, they do not know how to access these funds. They will only rely on direct sales. And we know sometimes players might leave your club, maybe on a free transfer, then they get sold after maybe 4 or 5 years. And you, having trained them in the past, do not benefit anything from them. We shall seek government support and sponsorship from private institutions for the league and the national teams. The 7th point on my agenda is constitutional reforms. Because improving international governance and embracing good corporate governance practices to measure up to the demands of internal and external stakeholders is another important goal of the Restore Confidence team. Our team shall take the mantle to listen to ideas that need redress from the stakeholders and reform them for the benefit of serving Gambian football. By so doing, we shall ensure that checks and balances are in place in terms of signatures for payments at the level of the Gambian Football Federation, wherein both the executive and the secretariat are signatories to the accounts. A better payment system, payment vouchers, and checks with supporting documents will also be in place. We will assign responsibilities to executive committee members for effective service delivery. And in this may require the need for an increment of the number of vice presidents from 3 to 5. I'm sure people will be wondering, you already have executive members, why do you need to do that? You have an executive committee that is comprised of 17 members. You have the president, you have the 3 vice presidents, you have 4 other members, 2 male, 2 female, one of whom is a retired referee, who are there without any specific portfolio or any department that they can look up, they can oversee. Those 4 other members who are there, we intend to transform the football executive into a form of a government, can eventually become presidents, and they're responsible for overseeing certain parts of our football. There's currently so much ambiguity. You have the first vice president responsible for finance and admin. Let me be quick to add that there is no part in the constitution of the Gambia Football Federation where it says the first vice president should be responsible for finance and administration. It's not there. This is just something that has been there and they've adopted the tradition. Second vice president responsible for competition, it's not there. Third vice president responsible for grassroots football and women's football, it's not there. It's just a norm. What we intend to do, we will read through this and ensure all these portfolios are handled as they are supposed to be. But if you have an executive where you have the president of a school sports responsible for grassroots football, you also have the chairperson of women's football sitting on the board, and then the responsibility of grassroots football and women's football is handed over to the third vice president. It creates a bit of ambiguity, and this is something that needs to be looked at so we can align that and straighten that. That is the idea. We want to ensure there's a clear separation of powers between the executive members and the secretariat. I have said this time and again that we should approach this with a brain and muscle philosophy, where the executive is the brain, does the thinking, and the secretariat is the muscle that does the work. You do the thinking and hand it over to the secretariat to implement, and you oversee. And with this, we also want to ensure that we will create a monitoring and evaluating unit in the Gambia Football Federation, because many times, be it projects or programs are started, nobody gets to monitor, nobody gets to evaluate. In so doing, one of the board members of the executive will be handed that responsibility with the support of some secretariat staff, whereas any project or any program that starts, there's a monitoring and evaluation team that does that to help us deal with any unforeseen issues that we may. We will also include independent members in each and every committee if possible. People who are not directly into football. Yes, the committees will be manned by people whose lives are daily linked to football. But it is important that we have in each committee one member of the society who is not a direct affiliate to football to be involved. This will help to restore confidence, and also in terms of marketing, where you can approach the people, because when you have independent-minded people, they are there to raise certain red flags, or they are there to call your attention in times when you feel you're doing it right, when in actual sense, it is not going the right way. Capacity building is the 8th part of the 11-point plan. Already, there's a camp project that the GFF has introduced, but we are all aware that apart from the coaches and the rest, have an understanding of what we're doing. By the time they can easily relate to whatever we're doing, because approaching people and talking to them about football some of them see this as just a game of sport and not something that can even develop the Gambia faster than medical and welfare fund for players is the 9th part, that is the striker in our 11-point plan. We are cognizant of the fact that a number of our Gambian footballers experience short playing careers due to injuries that could be attended to by qualified medical practitioners, but for lack of funds, these careers are short-lived and do not even progress for more than 4 or 5 years in most cases. My team intends to set up a medical fund which shall be funded with 7% contribution from all subventions received from FIFA, CAF, gate takings, TV rights, payments and any other monies due to the GFF. So any monies coming to the GFF, if we get into office, 7% of that will be reserved and put into a medical fund that will go for the players who have career-threatening injuries and will be roaming the streets looking for sponsors. For the players, we want to ensure your nightmare ends now. Together with the Football Players Association and the veterans, we shall work on establishing a professional sports institute at the National Technical Training Center, which is Gambia Football Hotel, which we already have, but we intend to transform this into a National Sport Training Institute. Obviously, we'll approach NACA and the government, but detached from our football. In every aspect of our football development and advancement the guy has done. Agenda is a proficient and productive administration. To ensure that the business and sport complement each other for the overall good, there have to be systems, structures, policies, regulations and statutes that shall have to be enforced without fear or favor. We shall ensure that the Gambia Football Federation Secretariat is well tooled to implement decisions that serve the Gambia football stakeholders equally, without partiality. We shall additionally strengthen the current departments and create others that shall better serve football in the Gambia. We shall create assigned responsibilities and strengthen departments in the following ways. A legal department is one of the fundamental departments that the Federation lacks, leading to the entering into of certain contracts that are at its detriment. The legal head, with the support of the legal committee, will also ensure a lot of compliance with the national laws, WAFU, CAF, and FIFA regulations. The brand and communication department will help close the gap, the information gap between the GFF, both internally and externally. The marketing department shall promote, protect and develop the GFF brand and all its properties, and this department shall equally be responsible for resource mobilization through sponsorship and partnership. And as I had mentioned earlier, the monitoring and evaluation unit shall ensure all projects, programs and activities that have been embarked upon are implemented as per the desired objectives. And the 11th point, or should I say the 11th player on this field, is the corporate social responsibility of the Gambia Football Federation. We understand that football cannot survive without giving back to the community where it comes from. And our leadership at the helm of the GFF shall be driven by the desire to deliver football to all stakeholders irrespective of any prevailing situations. And during periods of the brand undergoing public relations challenges like now, the case of the issues like corporate social responsibility will cushion the GFF brand, because if you had engaged the community from the beginning, giving back to community or engaging the community through corporate social responsibility activities, they tend to understand what your constraints are. The CSR activities as broken down below shall help revitalize GFM plan and take football to every Gambian citizen across the country. Activities like visiting orphanages, charities and community-driven projects that will benefit remote areas of the country. Players Association, referees, we want to ensure all these allied associations and all these stakeholders go back to the community and engage them so that they understand. If issues like this happen, it reduces the chances of people attacking referees even during the games, whether they're security or not. You have to engage the community for them to better understand what we are doing. You have to engage the community so that they better understand that football is just not for kids to come and play and then go home. We will work alongside UN agencies like the UNICEF, UNFPA, etc. in areas of advocacy and promotion of the rights of young children through football. Alongside health organizations, we shall also endeavor to roll out campaigns against malaria and other killer diseases. We will also work alongside the differently abled people in football, because oftentimes you see the Deaf Association or the differently abled individuals looking for funds from the Gambia Football Federation or from the general public to go and fund their activities. Distinguished stakeholders, football touches everyone around the world. To some of us, it is a passion and a way of life, but to others, it is more than life. Some people have gone to the extent of calling it a religion. I clearly understand that there are pressing needs in 4 key areas, that is the rebuilding of the GFF institution, generating and managing of resources, improving the stakeholder relationship with the GFF, and the judicious management of resources. The GFF needs to measure up to the demands of the internal and external stakeholders. Thus, we have to improve on the internal administration and embrace generally accepted good corporate governance best practices. The moment is now for all the stakeholders to join us as we work together for a better GFF with a team of a passionate and emphatic group of individuals that have a combined experience of more than 20 years of football administration in the Gambia. Therefore, to accelerate the GFF's transformation, I humbly appeal to you all for a resounding mandate for the Restore Confidence team to lead Gambian football. We have an unmatched energy and performance and a clear vision of uplifting and preserving a preeminent standard of football in the Gambia so that we can place Gambia football governing body on a pedestal for technical, structural, and financial self-sustenance. I thank you all for coming today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamaso. Finally, we now have the face-to-face with the press, and we will wrap up from there. The press, you can come closer and please throw in your questions.
Hello? Just please identify your media house and your name, please, so we could be clear who you are. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. A very good afternoon to everybody, to Sadibou, of course, and members of the high table. My name is Amadou Tamba from Capital FM. I have 2 questions for Sadibou. The first question is about the infrastructural development. In recent years, all the aspiring Gambia Football Federation presidents always sing this song. And when we come into office, we're going to develop the infrastructures of this country. But when they get into office, it's a thing of the past. All we see is the same old structures. You made mention of in this country. will you and your team do to ensure this becomes a reality when you voted into office? That is one. The second question is about football. You made mention of increasing the league prices, the main league to 1.5 million. But it's important for us to know that we're not only having the main league, we also have the women's league. And of recent, the Confederation of African Football have inculcated the CAF Women's Champions League. And once we get the winner of the league in the women's category, they will also So what is in place for you and your team for the women's football if a team wins, for them to be able to take part?
Thank you. Taking promises. Our focus will be on the pitches first, and then we can work on the rest, because I am of the fervent belief, and I believe with every fiber of my being, that we are in a position to ensure every region has at least one standard playing pitch. Not the stadium. That is why I clearly made it clear that it's the pitch. Because for us to run the league, the pitches have to be there. That is why we're making promises that we will have the pitches on board. We did not say the stadium, because we all know building a stadium costs a lot of money. So if we make a promise that we want to build a stadium and eventually we overstretch ourselves, we will not deliver. So what we will do different is work gradually by starting first with the pitches, and then we could go to the pavilions and the others. And by the time we gain the confidence of the general public, we are very confident that those people will come on board to help us complete. Because you need public-private partnership. You always have to have the public on your side. There is no iota of doubt that there are institutions or individuals out there who may contribute to maybe fencing this park. But if they are not approached, or if they lose confidence in the institution that is doing that, they will not come on board. So what we intend to do is to ensure we make promises that are deliverable, and that is working on the pitches. Coming to the second question about the women's football, I think that is also related to my first answer. We do not want to make big promises by saying we will increase their prize monies now. We're increasing the prize monies for the male clubs, and we're also trying to bring the women's clubs to be affiliated. So making it gradual would lead us there, because once we have them affiliated directly to the Gambian Football Federation, we're able to push their agenda. You have a Gambian Football Federation and you have a Women's Football Association, but their affairs are not run by the Football Association. The affairs of the referees is run by the referees. The affairs of coaches is run by the coaches. Why is the affairs of women's football not being run by the Women's Football Association? So that is what we want to change. That is where we start. When we change that, then we can go to the next level. But if we sit here today and promise them that we'll bring you on board and then we'll do this, then we will fail, because we will overstretch. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Kamaso, and good afternoon. My name is Kudasani, a freelance journalist. Still on women representation. Currently, there are 3 votes for women. Now, I want to know whether your administration, if voted in office, will dissolve the Women Football Association. In relation to his question still, are we going to see equal pay to all the genders in football? Thank you.
Thank you. The Women's Football Association has its own constitution. And in order to dissolve them, you have to go according to the constitution of the Women's Football Association. And as I said, what my team and I intend to do is to advance and propose to the General Assembly, because unilaterally, I cannot do it, not even my executive. For the women's football teams to be directly affiliated to the Gambia Football Federation can only be done with the approval of the General Assembly, which is the highest decision-making body. We will advance this and allow them to debate on it, and once approved, then they can join us. For their dissolution, we will have to go by the constitution of the Women's Football Association. And in so doing, if it goes through, we will follow all the legal processes for them to dissolve and directly get affiliated. And I think they would rather be affiliated to the Gambia Football Federation directly and not be under an association that is not
fully functional. It's not their fault. Your second question, the issues of equal pay, that is not for the Gambia Football Federation leadership to decide. Every club has their payroll. As I said, we want to professionalize the league to ensure that any club that becomes a professional, whether male or female, because that's where we start, we have to be honest. The male league is way above the female league. It takes time. If they become professional, or even if they set up a league management company for the female, because that's the idea we have, there and then, they could decide among themselves if they want to implement a minimum wage, so we can start working to the process of professionalizing their league. The minimum wage is when we become a professional league, that body becomes a separate entity and will be registered as a business, so that all these clubs are registered as businesses. They can sell, they can buy, they can do other activities in order to generate resources to run their clubs. So we are not in a position to determine they get equal pay, but what we want to do is to bring them on the table so that they have equal representation at the Gambia Football Federation, and also ensure that there are more women that sit on the GFF board. And that is the reason why we said we are going to have a female vice president. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Mr. Sadibou, you've given a very marathon explanation of your starting 11. You've captured some very ambitious and very interesting points to move our football forward. I want to know how long would it take you to achieve this? Well, knowing that you only have 5 years to do if not given a second term, and whether what you have said here are tenable. These are very ambitious and lofty points that you have made. Is it not one of those sugar-coated campaigns that we have been hearing in previous years, the same repeating itself as well?
Thank you, Morales. First of all, the mandate is 4 years, not 5. I think it's Gambia government that does 5. In football, all the administrations are 4. And secondly, the points are not ambitious. I've lived this, and I'm part of the executive. I'm involved in the day-to-day running of a club. Most of the points here are institutional. These are issues that institutional reforms can bring you even within a year. Apart from the pitches that we've mentioned, and with the pitches that I said, in every region, within 4 years, we will ensure that every region, 4 years, we will ensure every region has a standard playing pitch, accountable governance, regularization of grassroots football, constitutional reforms, corporate social responsibility, capacity building. These are not things that are difficult to achieve if the approach adopted is holistic. We are going to bring this to all of you. That is why I said even all the other committees are going to have independent-minded people who are not into football to sit in those committees. Because when you do this, it's easy for us to achieve what we desire. So most of them are not issues that we'll have to go and start buying materials here and there to implement. But these are things that constitutional reforms will make us achieve. And that is the reason why, as Aliu had earlier said, we are not going to talk about anybody or any individual. We are going to talk about what we intend to do. Because even when voted into office, we want to bring everybody on board. I can assure you, my team and I is in consultations with different people who were even on the other side during the last campaign. Because what we intend to do is to increase stakeholder
football in Gambia, which is benefit for all of us. And for us, as I said, people sitting here is just the face. But the character and the background I've seen on people are not people that are coming here to sell you false hope. And we are in a digital world, and this could be played back to us if the stakeholders give us their votes and then we come out and try to do something that we didn't promise. We'll all resign, straight up. We're here to improve football for the benefit of the football. We're doing that in our individual clubs and our capacity. So let no one be fooled that we're here just to tell you that this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do, and when we get there, we don't do it. As Sadibou has said, even in the starting 11, that sometimes the hands are tied in the federation, and there is the mantle of leadership that has the veto power. It's also part of the constitutional reform that if you have a whole bunch of people working underneath and it comes back to the head of the leadership and he could say, I want this, not in the capacity or in the best interest of football. These are constitutional rules that we have to do to change that so that no one or one person can control what you could do. So this has to be understood by everybody. We're not here to give you flamboyant ideas. And this all institutional reforms are easy. If we take control of the FF, the force revenue for the 7% for players' welfare and health management is doable right away. I mean, the ambitious plan we see right here is if we say we have 7 regions and we build one park, as Sadibou said, not a football stadium, but the pitch, at least every season we do Banjul, we do Brikama. In 4 years, we have achieved 4 out of 3. And we're not going to be ambitious of what we're going to do to over-impress of what we're doing. We're going to cut our clothes to what fits us. So let everybody knows this is how it's going to be operated, this is how it's going to be done. Football is a progressive thing. From all of us playing in our streets, in Lawetan, in schools, in the league, professional to retire. So everything we are building up is going to be a replicating of that. We start from what we have to start, that this is what you do when you have the time. Those days are past in football. Football has to be controlled by like-minded people and football interest people. But just to buttress on that.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Kamaso. My name is Kamaso from the Choice of Radio and of course the Point newspaper. We are of course having a very good starting 11, which cannot only win us the Cup of Nations, but even the World Cup, it can also win us the World Cup. Now, having had your starting 11, and I didn't hear anything about or coming from you to assist the regions across the country. What do you have for the regions if you are elected into office? That's number one. And secondly, you are part of the problem, that is, you are part of the current executive, that the stakeholders are throwing the problems at. Don't you think that your current unveiling of your manifesto, of course, you're starting 11, will not jeopardize your level of participation, starting from today, of course, going towards the election? And secondly, what I also be wondering, Sadibou Kamaso is part of the current GFF executive with such a brilliant idea. Why don't you inculcate it there? You understand, of course, have a vibrant, of course, working, of course, executive, and of course, to develop football in the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Brilliant questions there. I think that question is a question that I was expecting for a long time. The last question, I think I'll answer the first part with the RFAs. Maybe you missed it, but we did say that we're going to ensure that the RFAs are well equipped, well funded, because their subventions are always a problem for them. And them being responsible for running the 3rd division leagues, not having their subventions on time or getting them in piecemeal affects their program of activities. We will also ensure they are well housed. Each of them has a proper office that they will call a secretariat, furnished and equipped with the necessary equipment to carry out their function. I think I did say this. And we will ensure that each region has a minimum of 1 standard pitch. Because what we intend to do, each region, for a start, will be getting $1 million every year, beginning their season. Because for me, you cannot have a regional football association manning a big region, for instance, like West Coast region, or CRR, or URR, or LRR. They're not even mobile. the JFF presidency enjoys certain benefits. So these things, even if I have to sacrifice what I have to get to give it to the RFA presidents, I will, because that's where the grassroots are. That's where the issue is. So all those regions have to have mobility. We've had a brilliant project where we said JFM needs vehicles and the like. But what about the RFAs? If a president that sits, a president of West Coast region, for instance, or should I say LRR, lives in Jara, and there's a game far down somewhere, how do you expect him to go and attend to that? If there are issues or even disputes, how do you expect him to attend that? So we want to ensure that the regions get their subventions on time so they can deliver. Now coming to your second question, yes, I've had this brilliant idea, and why didn't I share this? I can assure you that every single idea that I have had, I've always shared. I'm not the type that will stand out and take credit for being the one who's done something. My friend here will always tell me, you're a ngayapan. But I can assure you, ideas that I have, I always share them. I speak where I am supposed to. Most of the ideas that I have shared. But then, not being the one responsible for the general leadership of the Gambia Football Federation, I have my limitations. There are places where I can stop. If you have a team play, and you have a team captain, at some point, even the best player leaves the pitch. Even the captain gets substituted. If the captain is running out of ideas, what do you expect the coach to do? Because obviously at some point the coach will call him to say, this is how I want you to play. But if he still feels this is how he should play, there's nothing wrong bringing in a substitute that can deliver what you want to get the 3 points. I don't need to resign to get the GFF presidency. Isa Hayatu has been CAF president from 1988 to 2017. He was vice president to Sepp Blatter. He stood up against him in 2002, no? We can find out. Ahmad won Isa Hayatu, and whilst he was still executive member of CAF. I've heard all those things, but you know, it's good for people to make research. You do not just need to resign, because resigning doesn't solve the problem. Because you should be there to learn on the job and raise certain red flags when there's a need to. I speak where I have to speak. I don't have to go on social media and start talking about other things. I'm speaking, and I'm one individual, my colleagues here will attest to that. I'm one individual that talks where I'm supposed to. So, to say that I am part of the current executive does not mean that I should not contest. If the team captain is not delivering, I believe we can make a substitution so that we can.
I think that's a brilliant answer, but this I'm speaking on behalf of all of us that are sitting except Sadibou. We fully well aware Sadibou and General Langtambo Tamba are sitting members of the current executive. But what we firmly believe is, because it has to take him to convince, it has to take others to convince us that he can lead our football. Yes, we're all sitting here saying there's problems in our football, but as he rightly said, there's limitation that he could do. I don't think it is an excuse, I think it's a reality, because this is something that we're already prepared for. And we're prepared to deal with it, and we've looked at him as someone that could lead us. It doesn't have to be with age, it doesn't have to be with association, it doesn't have to be with tribe. As I said, I will buttress again that we're here for football, not for dirty politics of blame or figure pointing. But you have to realize, even in your household, if you have issues in there, you cannot bring an outsider to solve the issues. This is just a practical thing. You have to know someone could take a second. It gets to a point that your own dad will give the mantle of leadership in there when he gets to a certain age. He can't deliver anything. So we have to look at it like that. But as I said, again, no one is going to fool us in this football anymore. The new generation of us coming have a different dimension and different perspective of what we see. Without fair or favor, what we see is football. So if Sadibou wasn't able to deliver, or we don't think he could deliver, and even if we elect him sitting here in front of us, he doesn't deliver, he's going to be out. So that's why we know what we want, what we do, and just to engage in future, because we are ready for some things that we're seeing. It's already started that Sadibou is young. Football is for young people. And let's just get out of that mindset. We've seen the president here from Yaya Jammeh, from Strasbourg, from Barrow right now. Are you going to tell me that to run a country you have to be an old guy? It doesn't make sense. You know? The imams in where we all pray or in the churches that are the bishops, they are not the oldest in the community. But they're chosen to be there. So let's get out of that zone. We've also heard football, Sadibou Banjul. Come on, man. We swear on ourselves, the politics that used to happen in football is not going to happen, and it's not going to deter us whether you are in politics of UDP, MPP, whether you are Sose, whether you are Banjul, whether you are Wapaset. Football is football. Let everybody understand that from Banjul to Koina, if we see a development that is good for Banjul or for Serekundawas, it's good for Koina. Because the kid playing in Koina and the kid playing in Banjul doesn't mean that the Banjul guy is more talented or the people from Bekama is more talented. So we want to enlighten people that we're not here for that. We're here to make football, we're here as Gambians, we're football as lovers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I just want to say something.